Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to another episode of the Dirty Birds of Brews podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin, joined for the first time by ESPN's new Atlanta Falcons beat reporter. He is Marc, is it Raimondi? Or I don't want to mess it up the first time I'm on the pod now.
Yeah, Raimondi. Yeah, you're
Raimondi,
okay. You're on the right track, Kevin.
It was like 80% of the way there. Okay, Marc Raimondi,
yeah, you got it.
at Marc Raimondi on Twitter. X, whatever they're calling it these days. Marc, welcome to the show for the first time. How are you doing?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Still getting my things together here in Atlanta. I've only been here for about 6 weeks or so. But so far so good. Didn't have water for a few days last weekend. That was an interesting little blip on the radar. But have water now. Have to boil it. Boil water advisory right now in Atlanta and some places. But other than that, I've been enjoying the city.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were baptized by fire, but it's probably more of like a reverse baptism because there actually wasn't any water. So, we'll workshop that analogy to make it work in post. But yeah, welcome to the area and all that. Of course, I don't live in Atlanta anymore, but so I know we were talking before the show. I know you're from New York originally. Now I live in New York, so we just kind of swapped places. But excited to talk to Marc today, guys. We're gonna get some OTA updates. We're gonna talk about the team. We're gonna talk about Marc's transition to Atlanta, how it's going so far, all that good stuff on today's show. Before we dive in, real quick, want to bring you guys a word from our sponsor, BetOnline. Folks, BetOnline is your number one source for all your NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals sports betting this weekend. Every stat, every matchup, and even the live odds and spreads while the games are being played. And when that game's over, you can head on over to BetOnline's online casino games. They've got blackjack, they've got poker. It's very dangerous for me. I'm definitely a blackjack guy, but I really need the cards in my hand. That's my thing. That's what gets me going. But no matter what you got, guys, they got that. They got over 150 slots games as well. So no matter what you like to play, you can head on over to that website, betonline.ag today to get in on the action. Just remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Marc. Well, you've already talked about the lack of water. That is not a typical Atlanta thing. At least it wasn't when I lived in the area. I'm sure the heat is oppressive. But how's it been so far? I know it's probably a big transition. I know you were, I believe, covering the combat sports beat for ESPN before. Had you done a lot of football stuff in the past as well?
I did a decent amount of football before I got into combat sports, but it's been a while. I was a full-time combat sports writer for about 11 years. So back in past life, I covered the Giants up in New York for SNY. I did a ton of football stuff over the years for the New York Post and Newsday. But it's been a while. I've been very much an MMA writer, a combat sports reporter for quite some time, but I'm very excited to be back in the NFL world, in the football world. It's the biggest sport in the land, and it's something that I've been a fan of for my whole life, and I'm excited to be, jumping in with both feet to Atlanta Falcons football.
Yeah, and you definitely got thrown in at a pretty opportune time because the NFL as a whole, the media landscape seems to be more interested in the Falcons this offseason than they have been in many, many years. So no easy start for you. Everyone wants all the intel on this Falcons team and camp and all that stuff with the selection of Penix and the busy offseason they've had. But it's been a busy one. I hope that I've always found the team to be very nice and the media set up to be very good. So I hope everyone's being nice to you so far.
Yeah, everyone has been actually very nice in Atlanta. Just in general, it's been from that perspective, it's been great. I really have no complaints about that aspect. People are pretty nice down south, I guess, apparently. So I've only lived in New York and Los Angeles my entire life, so this is a new experience.
Yes, at least on the surface, everyone's very nice. So, yeah. But glad you're settling in okay there. And I
got my iced coffee from Little Tart. Shout out Little Tart, my favorite bakery in Atlanta. That place is amazing. Love
nice.
It.
I'll have to check that out next time.
This is not an ad. This is
not ad.
Legitimate. I love that place.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I'll have to check that out next time I'm around as well. But excited to get your take so far on the team. Obviously, I think we just wrapped up OTA session 4 or 5, and then we've got, of course, mandatory mini camp coming up next week. Well, probably less than next week at this point. It seems like we're flying through these OTA sessions.
Mhm.
But how's it been so far, getting out there and getting to get your hands on the team for the first time?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great seeing this team that, I'm new, but there's also a lot of newness to the team. Raheem Morris and his coaching staff are brand new. They came from Los Angeles, most of them. Kirk Cousins is the new quarterback. Michael Penix is the new first round draftee. So it feels like there's a freshness to it from multiple perspectives, for me and also for the team. And it's been cool seeing the progression of how Kirk Cousins is working with the skill players. We got our first chance to see Bijan Robinson earlier this week. It was his first time practicing during OTAs, so that was cool to see. And it seemed like there's a good amount of talent, at least in that skill position unit, with Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and even guys like Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod, who people are high on. So it's just been exciting to see Kirk Cousins work with those guys, because it seems like there is promise, right? There is potential for what this team could be, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I know that's what fans are most excited about. It was kind of we the previous regime sort of built the scaffolding of this offense. It just never really came together. And a lot of that had to do with the lack of quarterback play at the top. And the new regime comes in and immediately adds not one, but two quarterbacks to the mix.
Right.
So, if you can't get a quarterback in 3 years, you might as well get two in 1 year.
That's right.
So I like the idea behind at least figuring out, look, no matter what, we're going to have at least one of these guys should work, right? But yeah, I mean, what's been your thoughts on Kirk Cousins and the rookie Michael Penix so far, after, admittedly not a whole lot, right? We're just talking about OTAs here, but just first impressions, sort of.
It's kind of like that gift that girl, why not both? That's kind of like the Falcons offseason, needed a quarterback. Why not get two? Why not get both? And you could see, I mean, I know that was a very polarizing pick when it happened, of course, in the draft about 6 weeks ago now, which is my first week on the beat, by the way. But I think it's aged well. And what I mean by that is it's pretty apparent in watching these practices during OTAs that Kirk Cousins is the guy. He is the quarterback. There's no doubt. And it seems like, for the most part, his backup is going to be Taylor Heineke. It's not going to be Michael Penix Jr. If you look at who is working with who on the practice field, it's usually Cousins and Heineke, and then Michael Penix and John Paddock off to the side somewhere with another unit. So it seems very much like Penix is in a developmental stage. Cousins is an established quarterback. He's been in the league for 12 years. He is a productive quarterback. He had 18 touchdown passes last year before he got injured. That was leading the league. I think only two quarterbacks since 2020 have had more touchdown passes than Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. That's pretty good company, right? So this is a guy that is established. I know that there's this bugaboo about his playoff wins and whatnot, but it's a team game, right? It's not just the quarterback. It isn't just Kirk Cousins losing those games. He's been a productive guy in the league for quite a long time. So this is an established guy. He's the number one. There's no quarterback controversy here or anything like that. And then Michael Penix Jr., you see in practice, there are flashes of brilliance. I mean, the deep balls and, some of the things that he's able to do, getting into tight spaces, the spin on the ball, his release, it comes off differently. It is beautiful to watch, but there's a lack of consistency, at least at this point, as far as some throws and, some of the touch passes, some of the fade routes, some of that stuff, where Kirk Cousins is kind of nailing it. And you can see this guy's a veteran, and he knows exactly what to do. He knows where to put the ball. And Penix is finding his way. He's not ready yet. He's not a complete product, and he will be at some point, and he has all the tools to be that. But it's pretty clear, if you're out there watching the practices, who the number one guy is. And anyone who thinks that there's any kind of a controversy or competition at this point, it's just not there.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like, especially with them deciding to keep Heineke at a reduced salary, but mostly fully guaranteed salary at this point, that he was going to be around to be the backup, at least initially. And we'll see how it develops. The Falcons it's a different coaching staff, at least in part. So previously, the way they would do it is they would pretty much make the rookies earn the reps with
Yep.
the higher strings, and that's pretty normal across the
Yep.
league. So we'll see if Penix over the course of training camp can earn the number 2 quarterback job or whatnot. But I agree that it's not shocking to see Heineke start out as the number 2, given his experience and
Yep.
all that stuff. So yeah, definitely encouraged to hear that. And yeah, again, don't freak out, folks, about Penix not being the QB2. It's not really an indictment of him. This is just how a lot of NFL teams handle their rookies. They sort of make them earn it, to get up into the second and first strings over time. Occasionally, the first round picks will just start with the second string. Like they're not going to make them work their way up from like the third string. But it's something that is not uncommon. So don't read too much into that. But anything stand out in terms of the other guys? Obviously, where there's no contact, but we've obviously a lot of investment on the defensive side of the ball. How have all those young defensive tackles, of which we have now gotten 3 in one draft, how are those guys looking out there? I know they're physically imposing, to say the least.
Yeah, it's so hard to say because there's no contact, so you can't really get a good feel of what the defense is going to be. I've definitely seen Rook Aroro work more with the first unit and the second unit more than the Braylon Trices and the Brandon Dorlises. So that's a positive sign, I guess, for where he's at. But it's really, they're not really in full pads. They're not. I mean, you can't really get a good feel for where they're at yet. So TBD, TBD. I saw JD Bertrand actually get some reps with one of the top units the other day at OTA. So that's a good thing too, because he's a guy that I think many people were expecting to be kind of more of a special teamer, at least at first. So I think there's definitely some potential there, but it's so hard to get a read on the defense right now. So hard.
Yeah, no, you're basically looking at how they're doing in drills and how they're moving around out there, if guys are healthy, that sort of thing.
Right.
But had to ask, But yeah, it's always interesting to see guys adjusting to the NFL and getting out there and how they look versus these other guys. But it's clear that the Falcons had an emphasis on the size and the athleticism, and sometimes you can see that stuff early on. But yeah, JD Bertrand, the length is big.
Morris loves length. That's one of his big things. He loves it.
Yeah, and that definitely checks out with Terry Fontenot's drafting in previous years too, that they've typically valued length at pretty much every defensive line position. And really the only pick so far that's sort of not met that threshold is Braylon Trice, who had, I think, under 33-inch arms, but he's the only one, I think, in Fontenot's entire tenure that's had under 33-inch arms. So they must really love Trice. He's definitely a firebrand out there. So excited to see him too. But yeah, JD Bertrand is an interesting one because I think he's a guy with an opportunity to actually step into more or less a rotational role right away, because there's not a lot of they've got their top 3 guys probably mostly settled, with Troy Anderson coming back from injury. They've got Caden Ellis as the veteran, and then Nate Landman, who came on in a big way last year. But that 4th spot is entirely up for grabs. So I'm definitely I'm expecting Bertrand to take a hold of that job. I know the coaching staff just absolutely loves him, raves about him. So definitely encouraging to hear him getting some opportunities early in the OTAs. One of the things we do get to see is a lot of routes against air. And I know everyone's wondering how Kyle Pitts is looking out there coming back from injury. I've seen a couple clips. He definitely looks a little smoother than he has in years past. How are you feeling about Kyle Pitts so far?
So far, so good. I really think, you could see, as a guy that was a fan of the NFL and a guy that, knew of Kyle Pitts and was excited to see how Kyle Pitts was going to play in the NFL. When you see him in person now and you see, the size and the ability in the air and the speed and the athleticism, he's different. He's a different cat, when it comes to all those physical tools. And, with Kirk Cousins there as the quarterback, and, there was a pass on Monday at OTAs that Cousins just slotted right into Pitts, like over the middle, in between like 3 different receivers and 3 different defenders. And, Pitts grabbed it, for a touchdown. And it was like, okay, this is what they have in this, the quarterback to receiver, quarterback to tight end chemistry, camaraderie already. You know, they seem like they're on the same page, at least early on, right? OTAs. So that was exciting to see. You know, that Pitts is you know, this, it feels like after the rookie season, it was like the sky's the limit for this guy. And then the last 2 seasons have been inconsistency, injuries, inconsistency, and now he has a quarterback that there's really no more excuses, right, for Kyle Pitts in year 4. So I think so far so good. You know, from a physical perspective, again, there's no hitting, you know, there's no contact, but dude looks really good, you know, right now with in those no contact drills, those 7-on-7s.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where this is where he should be looking better and healthy, and I think so far from what we've seen, it looks to be the case. And speaking of guys' health, we've also seen Bijan Robinson and AJ Terrell come back, I think, as of just a day or two ago. Right. So obviously not a ton of time to get looks at those guys yet, but we're hoping to see more from them as the rest of the offseason program ramps up here. But any other guys dealing with injuries or anything else that you've been aware of with guys that are missing time or things that fans should be aware of in terms of the injury front?
Yeah, I mean, Grady Jarrett is still recovering, you know, from being banged up last year. So he has not really been out there. They do expect him back for the mandatory veteran minicamp next week. We haven't seen a ton of David Onyemata out there at this point. I think he's a little bit banged up. And Jace McClellan, you know, their rookie running back, has not been out there at all either. So there are a few guys dealing with injuries, but getting AJ Terrell back and getting Bijan Robinson back this week, which early, you know, because Raheem Morris said they were going to be back for minicamp, and they were actually back a week early. So that's got to be looked at as a positive sign.
Yeah, because you know they're not going to rush these guys back under any circumstances. So if they're ready to go, they'll be out there, and it's nice to hear some positive injury news. There's unfortunately so much negative injury news every year, so we'll hope that stays in the background as long as possible. But definitely encouraging to have those guys back out there for the Falcons. And I know lots of people want to know if Casey Washington has continued to be the dominant target getter of sort of the other team guys, or of the rookies, the young receivers. I know early on he was just seemingly being a target hog. I don't know if that's continued, but he's definitely one guy that I think everyone should be watching in terms of a surprise sort of contributor this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really think that he can play. I think he's definitely shown a lot of really, really positive signs. You know, he's big. He's bigger than he looks. You know, he's also faster than he looks as well, for whatever that means. But I think you have to be positive about Casey Washington. I'm not sure where he's going to fit, because I really do think that, you know, with Mooney and a lot of people are really high on Ray McLeod. You know, a lot of people like Ray McLeod. Kirk Cousins loves Darnell Mooney. You know, you got Rondell Moore out there. He's been a little banged up as well during the spring, but there is some depth to that wide receiver room. And then you have, you know, Kyle Pitts, who's going to probably play a little bit of receiver too. So there's definitely things that this team can do as far as that. And, you know, fits right into kind of the offense that Zach Robinson wants to run to, the kind of the Sean McVay, you know, type offense. So I think we see Casey Washington, you know, make some plays this season, and he's going to probably end up getting better and better. There was Chris Blair had a great catch from Penix the other day at OTAs. That was really nice. It was a great ball by Penix, like a deep ball. You just love watching him throw those deep balls, right? And and Blair hauled it in, and that was a nice catch too. So guys like that, I mean, but I think they kind of have their unit, and Casey Washington is trying to kind of bust down that door and get into that conversation with the Moonies and the McLeods and the Rondell Moores.
Yeah, because I think there's certainly opportunity. I think there's a clear opportunity for him to be the fifth or sixth receiver on this roster without, you know, too much trouble if he continues on this pace. But yeah, getting into those top 4 guys in terms of who's going to play, because traditionally under Sean McVay, at least last year, they played 3 receivers pretty much every snap. Yep. And occasionally they would have a 4th guy rotate in from time to time, but they were pretty much going to play those top guys every snap. So that can be great if you have good top 3 receivers, but it also means that the guys lower on the depth chart don't necessarily see the field unless there's injury. So it could be a situation where it's more of a redshirt style year for Casey Washington if the Falcons are healthy. And, we're certainly not hoping for anyone to get hurt, but it's always nice to have the insurance of a promising rookie like Casey Washington kind of in the background, ready to step in if guys do miss time. And it's the NFL. Receivers typically do miss some time. So it's nice to have that. Yeah. So definitely looking forward to see how he continues to progress. I'm just excited to see this new look offense for the most part. I mean, I think everyone is. It's been a tough couple of years. Obviously, the quarterback play has been an issue. You just get to come right in and just get great quarterback play in OTAs. I'm very jealous. We didn't get to watch a lot of that in training camp over the past few years, but. At least you get to start off strong with, it's better for everyone really when we're having accurate passes because, can only show so many clips of incomplete passes, right? You got to get some completions in there, but it sounds like it's been a pretty fruitful start to OTAs in the offseason for this team.
It feels that way, again, don't know what the defense is going to be like just yet because there's no contact, and it's really hard to completely gauge the offense too because of that. But from a pure health standpoint, I think you have to be really positive about Kirk Cousins' recovery because he's really been able to do everything. I mean, there really hasn't been any real limitations on him from what we've been able to see in practice. He's making all the passes, he's doing all the drills, he's doing all the 7-on-7s, and that might change when training camp comes when there's pads on. But he's got a good 7 weeks now before they break for camp. I guess late July, right? So. He's the kind of guy that's not gonna shirk the rehabilitation appointments and that type of stuff. He's gonna do everything that he needs to do, and I know they're very confident that Kirk Cousins is gonna be that guy. He's not gonna be the kind of guy to I'm gonna skip a day. You know what I mean? That's not who he is. He has a spreadsheet for everything. This guy, he probably knows down to the muscle group of exactly what he's doing. So there's hope for that. But that's still something that is probably in the back of people's minds. Is he gonna be fully healthy for training camp when there is contact? No one knows that for sure yet. And we'll have to see, in a few weeks, a month and a half from now or so when that happens. But as far as OTAs and as far as the spring goes, I think you have to be really, really excited about what you see from Cousins and that group of skill players.
Yeah, it is very encouraging, and at the very least, even if he's not able to take full contact, if he's able to get out there and just build chemistry and get a handle on the offense and all that stuff, that's very valuable. Cousins is such a vet. It's not necessarily even that he needs it as much as all of his weapons and all of his teammates need it, to get on the same page. So it's very good that they can have these early sessions because I think that was absolutely not a guarantee when the signing came in, even if you had a rosier look on the injury situation. And I mean, it's pretty clear that Achilles injury recovery has come a long way in a short time. Even it was a bit ridiculous, but I mean, they were talking about Aaron Rodgers playing again last year after tearing his Achilles, and I don't think that was realistic. But the fact that it was floated at all would have been completely unheard of, even 5-6 years ago. So clearly, the medical field has made some strides in the treatment, the surgery, the recovery from that. And that's always a good thing because you never like to see guys. This used to be an injury that would destroy careers. I mean, for running backs, for skill position guys, notoriously difficult to come back from. And now we're seeing guys. It's obviously not easy to come back from, but it's no longer the career jeopardizer that it used to be, and that's a good thing because we've seen too many players over the years have their careers cut short by this injury, and hopefully Cousins could get several good years here in Atlanta, as long as he wants to continue playing before hanging him up. But definitely an encouraging sign so far that he's been out there. And it doesn't seem like there's been too many issues. It seems like it's been a good start to OTAs. We'll hope that injury luck continues. It's always a dicey time once things get started, but seems like stuff has been so far so good, and we'll hope that continues. Anything else from the early days that you'd like to touch on, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it's the focus is on the offense, of course, as we spoke about, and there's definitely excitement there. I do think there's a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball, and we're not going to really know exactly what that is going to shape up to be yet. Jimmy Lake is the new defensive coordinator. What are his schemes going to be like? What is that going to look like when they're going full contact? We just don't know yet. I do think that while the secondary has some talented players, and of course, when you have Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell on a unit, you're in pretty good shape. But I do think that there are some guys who are unproven, who it's possible the Falcons could still look to add somebody to that, to the cornerback room or someone like that. So I do think there are some question marks there. But and then the pass rush, how healthy is Grady Jarrett going to be? Where is David Onyemata at? And then the guys on the edge, are they going to be able to get to the quarterback? Braylon Trice is a rookie. He's got an incredible motor, and he was an incredible pass rusher in college as far as putting heat on the quarterback. Will that translate to the NFL? How much playing time is he actually going to get? Dorless, Rororo, guys like that. Who's going to end up kind of being part of like that rotation up front? There's a lot of question marks, I think, on the defense. I think on the offensive side of the ball, a lot to be excited about if you're a Falcons fan. The defensive side of the ball, some question marks, and look, they might end up being good answers to those questions, but we just don't know yet.
Yeah, there are questions. I know how the cornerback room is going to shake out is probably the biggest question on defense in terms of it. Will it be Clark Phillips opposite AJ Terrell? Will it be, Mike Hughes getting another opportunity to play outside? It seems like he's been sort of set in the slot, but, going back to Kansas City, that's where he's had his best NFL season so far, with playing outside in Kansas City. Obviously a different sort of scheme, but something to consider. And then D. Alford, where does he mix in? I think, he should be the slot starter. I think he earned it last year. He seemingly got pulled off of that because of his return duties, which I think starting corner probably more important than returns, but maybe that'll change this year with the new kickoff return rule. So who knows? But yeah, I don't know if you've gotten any clues into how they're divvying up the snaps with all those guys so far in terms of who's outside, who's in the slot. I know there's still no contact, but I don't know if the depth chart's becoming any more apparent yet.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen Hughes out there on the outside. With AJ on the other side, at least the other day when AJ was out there. I've seen it's really, I feel like it's really mostly been Hughes, but yeah, it's definitely rotated. It's that there's definitely guys coming in and out, and I've definitely seen Alfred out there as well. TBA, TBA, we'll see. It's
early days, but it's always interesting to get those little hints at how things are shaking out. But I'm encouraged to hear Mike Hughes is playing outside, because I actually think that's where he played actually quite well as a starter for the Chiefs for most of the season.
Yeah.
After being sort of slotted into the slot, I think outside he might just be one of those guys, that's maybe doesn't have the measurables for outside, but is just a good outside corner. And I think Clark Phillips can be the same way.
It's definitely been him and Phillips, for the most part. But I've seen the Tron Brooks out there too, guys like that. They've been rotating guys in and out. Yeah,
which is good this time of year. You want to get eyes on a lot of different guys, see where they can play. Nothing's set in stone. They could show up to camp and have guys playing slot outside completely differently, or a different rotation of safeties or whatever it is. We know Jesse Bates is going to be out there. We know AJ Terrell is going to be out there. But it's good stuff. Great intel from you, Mark. Really appreciate you taking the time. Great to have you on for the first time. We'll definitely do this again soon. Guys, he's at Marc Raimondi on the X as well. Anything you'd like to let the people know about, Mark, before we sign off today?
I don't think so. Just mini camp is next week, and hopefully there'll be even more. Just kind of, it's like the collecting data kind of period, right? We're kind of seeing where things are at. Doesn't mean we're ready to even know what's going on yet, but at least we're collecting some data on things. But no, I mean, I'm just excited on a personal level, for serving the Falcons fans. Like that's what I want to do. As a fan, as a sports fan, I want my the reporters that I follow to answer the questions for me that I want answered, and that's what I'm here to try to do as best as I can.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your work. Nice to meet you, of course. Hopefully we'll be able to meet in person at some point when I get down there. I'm looking forward to more of your reporting from the branch. Glad you're getting settled in okay down there, other than the water situation. But that was a freak thing. That never happened to me when I was down there. So
yeah, and they're apparently still dealing with some water main breaks down here. So hopefully we're out of the woods, but I would like to be able to drink water at some point, like from
You would like to be able to drink water. Back in my day, we did 2-a-days and we didn't get to drink one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, please drink water. Yes. Please drink water. Yeah. No, they would never do that. But yes, thanks again, Mark. Guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcon. Kevin, thanks for tuning in to Dirty Birds and Brews. Today, we will be back. We'll be back next week with some more great content, some more great guests for you guys as we have one more little nugget of content here with minicamp, and then it's the deep darkness of the dead zone until training camp starts. So we'll still be here. We'll be covering all kinds of stuff. We'll be taking a look at the roster, at the schemes, and all that. So you could join us for that. Make sure to check out the Patreon or the channel memberships on YouTube. We're going to be starting up our Patron Fantasy Leagues again this year. I know people love those. So you can get involved with that. Just sign up on the Patreon or the YouTube channel memberships. You can check out the community Discord server. The link is in the show description. And yeah, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave that 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. And we will see you guys next time on Dirty Birds and Brews. Have a great day, folks.